And now, Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
Hey, Joe Bob Briggs still here. And the Roaches close with a rousing gospel number. Great movie, kind of a sweet movie. Not the kind of thing you would really expect to be made by MTV. Okay, let me remind you once more that next week is the first annual Joe Bob Briggs Family Christmas Special, a very Joe Bob Christmas, with a reunion of all the Briggses from all the areas of Texas and even as far east as Pickensville, Alabama. We'll also have the Joe Bob Briggs Tabernacle Choir, which is several of Rusty's lovely friends, so I'm looking forward to that. All this in the only Christmas movie with a monster that gets killed in a blender. I'm talking Gremlins, and we'll follow that with more pets, the cowboy alien mafia comedy Pet Shop. Okay, it's time for NightBreed, the first affirmative action horror flick with over 200 mucus mummies, including one guy with a crescent moon head like the old McDonald's commercial and a fat guy with snakes that pop out of his stomach and eat your face off. And those are the people you're supposed to like in these movies. All these slime glopola monsters live in a place called Midian, which is underneath a cemetery up in northern Canada, which is where this weird-beard psychiatrist Spongehead is slashing housewives and wasting innocent suburbanites. And I don't want to say any more about it, so let's do the drive-in totals and get it started. We have 66 dead bodies, 6 breaths, but don't even think about seeing those on the TNT version, 1 motor vehicle chase with pickup plunging into the center of the earth, killer porcupine breasts, exploding monsters, throat slashing, bimbo staking, head hacking, guy cutting off his own face, whimpering mutant ET dog that turns into a little girl when it's taken out of the sunlight, heads roll, mutant foo, flamethrower foo, earthquake foo, 3 stars. Check it out and we'll be right here. Clive Barker. Clive Barker's idea of a great time is to have a nightmare about a woman with 3 heads and no skin who flays your body with a pitchfork. That's Clive. I'm inviting him to my next party.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
So I didn't want to say this right up front, but do you guys recognize the guy playing Decker, the weird-beard psychiatrist? David Cronenberg, the director, the guy who directed The Fly and Rabid and Crash. Kinkiest man in Canada, David Cronenberg, the guy who makes movies about viruses that are so weird they make disgusting bloody power drills come up out of Marilyn Chambers' armpits and burrow into your heart until you're a flesh-eating zombie. So what was that movie with Marilyn Chambers? Rabid, that's right, Rabid. So we got the kinkiest man in Canada and the kinkiest man in England, Clive Barker, and they're spewing slime together. Okay, let's go. Whole lot of plot that gets in the way here, but try not to let that get you down. Some of these big horror authors, they're really mild-mannered guys, but they just got vivid imaginations, but not Clive Barker. He's different, because listen to this quote. "The drama of S&M is fascinating to me. It's certainly part of my life. Does that mean there's a dungeon in this house? No, regrettably not. But I have just about everything else." So he's saying he's into the S&M, the B&D, and the LMNOP.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
That little sick dog-like child creature thing kind of looks like the dying E.T., doesn't it? It's got the same eyes as E.T. Why do we believe that girl would pick the thing up and save it when if we saw that thing on the streets of New York, we would all act like it wasn't there, huh? Anyway, I keep thinking that guy with the dreadlocks made out of skin is Michael Keaton. Looks kind of like him. It's actually a cat named Oliver Parker. Why am I talking like Sammy Davis Jr.? It's this cat named Oliver Parker. He was in Hellraiser 1 and 2, Clive Barker's much more successful flicks. And in fact, the leader of Midian is none other than Pinhead himself, Doug Bradley. Looks very biblical in this movie, despite the turbo vents in his cheeks. And by the way, how many people thought Craig Sheffer was going to be a big star when he did A River Runs Through It, big Robert Redford movie with Brad Pitt? And we all know what happened to Brad Pitt, right? Actually, what did happen to Brad Pitt? Because I don't see Brad around as much as I used to. He dumped Gwyneth and moved to Havana or something. Anyway, speaking of horribly dysfunctional human relationships, let's get back to NightBreed. Did any of you guys see A River Runs Through It? No. They were going for the box office gold on that one. Let's do an epic about fishing. But let's do fly fishing. The kind of fishing where you basically stand stock still for 8 hours with icy water up to your knees. That'll just glue them to the seats, won't it? If you're going to do fishing on the big screen, you should at least do a bass tournament, right? There you got your dramatic conflict, like those guys that sneak the frozen bass into their boat and try to cheat. A lot of great scenes there, but fly fishing, you know, what were they thinking? Walter, might you have another feather? I seem to have lost mine. Thrilling.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
All right, class, here's your question for the evening. Does this movie make a lick of sense? No! No, that's correct. All right, that was the great John Agar as the old codger in the gas station who gets tortured by David Cronenberg. And John Agar was in Fort Apache and The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And for years, everybody thought John Agar was dead. And then all these younger directors started using him again. But those John Agar scenes weren't in the original script, because when Clive Barker turned in the movie, 20th Century Fox thought it was so dang hard to understand the movie that they ordered him to shoot something else that would tell people exactly who these people were in Midian. And they also have that extra scene where Babette, the dog girl, holds the girlfriend's hand and shows her the past to get a little more exposition in there. So now it's all crystal clear, right? You see, what happened is there are all these monsters. They live underground in an abandoned cemetery in rural Canada. And the reason we're going there is I had it just a minute ago. I really had figured it out. Give me one more segment and I'll have the whole thing figured out. Oh, I know it. No, that's not it. Okay, back to the flick. Is Craig Sheffer a monster or isn't he a monster? Was he a human who turned into a monster, or a monster that looked like a human, or is he deciding whether to be a human or a monster at the present? Get Clive on the phone. We need to shoot a couple more scenes.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
Okay, while Craig Sheffer arbitrarily changes from man to beast to man and the psycho priest makes his hand bleed, it's time for Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless with something else that changes nightly, the TNT male girl uniform. Come on over here, Rusty.
All right.
Oh, man, Rusty, I think we should make this the permanent male girl uniform. Wow.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Is this approved by the post office, what you're wearing here?
It's personally inspected by the postmaster himself.
While it's on you or while it's off you?
I'm just kidding. Actually, it's inspected by your producer.
David? Why would David be inspecting wardrobe?
He's a real hands-on producer.
Oh, he looks after every little detail, doesn't he?
He even takes Polaroids to make sure the male girl outfit will look good under TV lights.
What a dedicated professional David is. Good grief.
It's a joy to be working under him.
Okay, I don't want to hear anything else about David. What do you got?
Here's a letter from Jabari Broden of Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay. Jackson. I've been to Jackson. Mr. Briggs, you talk too much. People think that was bleeped, but I can actually talk that way, like in the Kung Fu movies. You talk too much. People want to watch the show a whole lot more than they want to listen to your forbidden TNT word, forbidden TNT word, forbidden TNT word talk. Jabari Broden, Jackson, Mississippi. Let's see. I can't say any of these words on TNT. I guess he or she is Jabari. Is this a he or a she? I guess when Jabari says the show, Jabari means the movie, because that's what we're going to, the show, right? But let me just point out, Jabari, that I may be this first thing that you called me here in the letter, but I'm not the second thing. And if I am the second thing, I'm not the third thing. And I may be the third thing, but I'm not the first thing. Why did you bring me this? I can't even read this on the air.
I like these kinds.
Yeah, I know you do.
Well, anyone. Try this one. It's from Anthony Cafiero from Mullen, Idaho.
Anthony Cafiero, Italian guy. Joe Bob, After watching Monstervision and Last Call for quite a while now, I decided to write to you. You just read a letter from two fat girls that the newest male girl brought to you. Remember that? Lately, I have been only watching your segments after the commercials for your excellent insight and advice. The movies have been lagging big time. I tried to watch The Nutty Professor, but just couldn't do it. And this Sleep Sand thing, I think he's talking about Sleepwalker or The Sandman. What was that thing called? Anyway, that thing is really bad. But I see from the website, now I know you think I'm a geek, and you're correct, that you have some good ones coming up in the coming weeks. So I guess what I'm trying to say is see if you can stay on longer and maybe cut out more of these dumb flicks. The plots won't suffer, and make more fat jokes, and keep the new male girl if you can. By the way, I am fat. Later, Anthony Cafiero, Mullen, Idaho. Okay, good letter. Positive letter on Monstervision for a change. Appreciate it, Anthony. Have you ever been fat, Rusty?
You shouldn't ask a woman that.
But we're friends. I can ask you that.
Oh, I felt a little overweight.
Proving my point that that's what I was saying in that original show. Everybody thinks they're fat. So let's get over it, okay?
What do you mean, everybody?
I mean that if you think you're fat, then the whole world is fat.
I don't get it.
Forget it. I'm just trying to inject a little phony New Age sentiment is what I'm trying to do.
What's that?
Well, that's the idea that we're all okay even though we're all actually screwed up. You just say things like that makes the people feel better.
Are you saying I'm fat?
No! You're definitely not fat. I'm not saying you're fat.
Because I feel fat.
Please! You're kidding, right?
I think I could lose 2 or 3 pounds.
I rest my case.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
Well, that doctor who took Craig Sheffer's pulse was certainly convincing, wasn't he? Wonder whose brother-in-law he was. Okay, does anybody know what's going on? Isn't this just a classic example of way too much plot getting in the way of the story? The monsters explode if they go out in the sun, but they have a special car with tinted windows so they can go down to the police station and kick butt. And David Cronenberg is a serial killer, and I guess we're supposed to think that he did all those crimes and blamed them on Craig Sheffer, but Craig Sheffer seems like he's into it. He wants to be a serial killer, but only sometimes. And what's in it for the girlfriend? She's hanging, this is several steps beyond herpes she's dealing with here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, well, that's okay. Even though you look like a freak at the state fair and you might devour me like a French fry at any moment, I still love you and I want to be with you. And how about that police inspector? Well, at least we lopped off that loose end. Okay, let's get back to it. Maybe it'll make more sense if we just hang in there a little longer. Remember that movie, The Monster Club, with Vincent Price? Same idea as this movie, but with comedy and cheesy effects. So instead of living underneath a cemetery, the monsters had a little nightclub. That movie didn't make sense either, but you didn't care.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
Are we supposed to like these monsters? Are they supposed to be lovable? Because they're just too damn ugly. Clive Barker is violating the 30-second rule of horror film aesthetics, which states if the monster is ugly, the monster is evil. If you want us to love the monster, you got to give it those eyes, like E.T., sick puppy eyes. You know, they almost got it right with Babette the dog child, but these marauding Midianites don't quite cut it. Anyhow, I want you to help me out here in this next part. I'm not going to give anything away, but something happens to Craig Sheffer where he ends up with a piece of paper on his chest. Now, if somebody can tell me what the heck that piece of paper is, I'll buy him a boom of fresh grape juice. Okay? Roll it. We have new rules here at TNT. Exciting conclusion to NightBreed. Don't Canadians say, they have these Canadian rednecks in this movie. Don't Canadians say, eh, at the end of every sentence? You know, like, how about those Canucks, eh? Let's go have a moose head, eh? Brothers and sisters, it's time to fight, eh? You know, that's how that line should have read. Of course, Clive Barker, he's not from Canada, he's from Liverpool. So what does he know? He talks like the Beatles. That's where they're from, the Obla-dee, Obla-da guys. You know what I'm saying?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and NightBreed on TNT.
So is Craig chef are alive now? Is he a human being? I don't get that. He gets bitten by the intestine head, shot up by some Nazi cops, stabbed by his shrink, turned into a pus-faced freak, but now everything's okay? And what did that big octopus monster tell him at the end? You are no longer Boone, you are Kahaha. Who's Kahaha? Anyhow, I'm not going to dwell on that because I want to remind you that next week is the first annual Joe Bob Briggs Family Christmas Special, A Very Joe Bob Christmas, in which I'll be having a reunion of my extended family right here on the air, including the various branches of the family from East Texas, West Texas, South Texas, and we'll also have the Joe Bob Briggs Tabernacle Choir. I auditioned every member of it personally. They look great in their little outfits, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. And we'll be showing the Happy Christmas movie Gremlins, along with the cowboy alien mafia comedy classic Pet Shop. So that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that you can't trust a dog to watch your food. Hey, did you guys watch when we had that Kennedy documentary on a couple weeks ago? I watched that again because I love that thing so much, and I wanted to, I'm going to get a little serious here, but remember when everybody used to talk about all the amazing Kennedy-Lincoln parallels, right, and they would engrave them on those plates and everything? Well, I was looking back over them this week, and I think we could all stand to be reminded of these things every once in a while, because remember these? I hadn't heard these in a long time. Abraham Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. John F. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Kennedy was elected president in 1960. The names Lincoln and Kennedy each contain 7 letters. Both were especially concerned with civil rights. Both wives lost their children while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday. Both were shot in the head. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy. Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Wow. Both men were assassinated by Southerners. Both men were succeeded by Southerners. Both successors were named Johnson. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908. John Wilkes Booth was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald was born in 1939. Both of them were known by 3 names. Both of those names have a total of 15 letters. Booth ran from a theater and was caught in a warehouse. Oswald ran from a warehouse and was caught in a theater. Booth and Oswald were both assassinated before their trials. A week before Lincoln was shot, he was in Monroe, Maryland. And a week before Kennedy was shot, he was in Maryland, Monroe. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. How can you tell when you've just had sex with Bill Clinton? You got French fries in your hair and Vernon Jordan is handing you a job application.